Hi guys, Sachukumobim here again. See who made it to 2024. I am so elated and glad you made it to this wonderful year. A very happy and fulfilling new year I'm wishing you from every one of us at Astromadio Services. Now, into this video, we're actually going to be continuing from what we stopped in the last episode. We are talking about C of O's. Yes, of course, C of O's. I remember in the last episode, we talked about, that's the part A of this video, we talked about how to process, C of O's for government acquired land. Now, in today's episode, we are going to be talking about the other side of the coin, talking about how to process, a C of O for privately acquired land or privately owned land. You and I know that the C of O is one of the most difficult documents to process here in Nigeria, no matter the state, no matter how advanced that particular state is in technology, you understand. Not minding the fact that C of O also is one of the most important legal documents on land as far as land documentations are concerned in Nigeria. Now, to go right in, to process this particular C of O, now let's assume you own a land and then you now want to process your C of O. Here are the few things you need to consider, before applying for a C of O in Nigeria. Number one, you ensure that your paper documents on that particular land are quite ready. There are a few things that will be demanded of you when you get to the Ministry of Land to apply for the process of C of O. Number one, your survey plan. Ensure that that particular land you want to process the document has a registered, survey, and then you have the plan. And it's not just registering. Ensure that that particular land is lodged at the Ministry of Lands. You have the copy. That is one. Ensure you also come with the copies of, the legal documents of the particular land. So I'm talking about legal documents of ownership, like depending on the state, deed of assignment, deed of lease, power of attorney. You come with 3 copies of your survey plan, passport, photograph, and then every other thing. These 4 things I mentioned are the most basic thing you find appearing in most states across the nation, in Nigeria. As you move from one state to other, the demands, the requirements, change. But these 4 things actually basic. They appear in almost every one of them. So you go with these 4 things. When you get to the Ministry of Land, depending, I'm using a case study of one of the states in southeastern Nigeria. So if it does not fit into your own particular templates, you can actually bear with me. But generally, the departments that cut across, Ministry of Land anywhere in Nigeria are actually the same, but the functionalities are actually what differentiates them a little bit, just very little bit. So follow through, you still gain a whole lot by watching this particular video. Now, the Ministry of Land, you provide this particular information, and of course, when you tender this information, you are given a form, one form and an affidavit. That's applicant's form. Now, on giving that form, you actually pay a non-refundable fee. I can't tell you the amount. You go to your state ministries of land and then verify. You pay a non-refundable fee, and then you collect this particular form and affidavit. You fill them depending on the information you have on that particular land. Now, after filling this particular form, you submit the form, the affidavit, and the documents you came with. Now, at this particular phase, it now moves to where they now vet the first phase of vetting that will be done on those documents. One, a temporary file will actually be created on this particular new document. Now, this kind of vetting that will be done here will be document count. The number of documents that are actually required of you, are they complete? Your survey plan, are they complete? The documents, the ownership documents, are they authentic? Most of the people that work in this particular ministry are professionals. You see legal people, estate, surveyors, and then they'll vet all these documents to verify how authentic they are. So that is the very first phase of vetting that will be done. If it passes this particular phase, you are good. That's just for the first phase. Now they'll move this particular temporary file containing all your documents through different officers in that particular department. Talking about land use now. They move it to the office of a surveyor general, where the next phase of vetting is carried out. Now, what surveyors do basically is this: they check for misclosure, errors of misclosure. the traverse that make the survey plan, are there errors? Are the errors, falling within the range of allowable error? For instance, there's supposed to be a linear accuracy of 1 in 33,000, or 1 in 3,000. You understand? So they check all these things. They pass it through a software, a system that vets, the angles, distances, bearing of, and the area of that land and the information on the survey plan. So they check all those things, the plan number, the beacon numbers, and they just vet everything according to surveyors. When it passes through the surveyors and then they vets it and then approves it, the surveyor general moves it. So the office, depending on the officers that work on the particular file, the file passes through the office of the surveyor general. Now they now move it to the town planning authority. Now within that particular department, they do another phase of verification. Theirs, most of the time, they check for the land use. Now remember the form that you'll be given when you pay for the non-refundable fee. I know one of the requirements there is that you are going to fill the use case of that particular land. You understand? What use are you putting that land to? You get? So this is where they are actually going to vet what you say you are using that land for, and actually what you are using it on ground in real life, and the templates of the state. So they actually put all these things apart and then compare them. If what they use you are putting that land to falls within within the templates of the state, that's the master plan of the state, they check it for you. You've passed land use. They also go for site inspection to verify other things according to town planning profession and then their rules and all. So let's assume you've passed up to this particular moment and then they approve you. They give you a thumbs up. Now that's your temporary file moves back to the land use department where you started, where it was issued to you. Now at this particular point now of approval, they now send the applicant, you in question, send the applicant notification certifying that your document is C of O worthy. That is to say, it has passed through the different processes of vetting, and then your documents and then your claims on ground are actually authentic. That is what it means. Now, what comes after this particular notification is the costing of all the fees accrued and also payments you need to make on that particular land. Another department will go through the document and then bring out all the amounts of money you need to pay on that particular land. They sum it up and then send it to you as a bill. By the time you look at it and then you pay, let's assume you pay. So you pay the money. What will now happen is this: they receive notification of the money you've paid. Of course, you come with your receipt. They look at it and say, okay, fine, this Baba or this Mama has actually paid for this land. They continue with what we call file conversion. Now, remember, I'll be making mention of your temporary file that's been created for you at the land use department. Now, this file will now be converted to a permanent file. So before it was temporary, which means it could be discarded. At some point, it could get to a particular department and they tell you that this particular file does not exist or the documents are not complete, so dump it. By the time you get to this particular point where your file is being converted from temporary file to a permanent file, it will be given a permanent allocation number, PAL. You understand? So the conversion after the payment, they convert your file to a permanent file. So what it means is now the file will now come with a particular number, the permanent allocation, number. Now, when it passes through this phase, it gets to another office where they will now, print out. They're now allowed to print a draft copy of the C of O. The essence is this: the C of O is a very important document, and it's not supposed to be printed anyhow. You don't even see the copy anyhow. So a draft copy is printed for the purpose of vetting. They will QA. They have like a chain of people in a particular office, for instance, the land registry, where people vet documents. So Mr. A will look at a particular section of the C of O to check it. The next person will look at what the other person has done. Chains of approval QAQC process, that is quality assurance and quality control, process. When they've passed through this particular phase for editing the draft copy of the CFO, and then they confirm it, okay, say fine, at this particular level, it has this level of confidence that it is correct, the information on it, is correct. They now move it to the office of the HOD deeds. So it is at this particular office that the final copy of the CFO is printed. Through the printing officer, the editing officer, the editing officer. Officers are just much. So they do everything they do. The HOD of this department will now be the one, after every level of approval, append his signature. He appends his signature and then passes it back to the Surveyor General of that particular state, who looks through one more time, vets, and also appends signature on the CFO. The final person to append his signature or signature on the CFO will now be the governor of that particular state or the Commissioner of Land, if given the approval to sign on behalf of the governor. It happens sometimes, maybe when the governor is not on seat or something like that. So the HOD signs, moves it to the Surveyor General to sign, and then before it now gets to the office of the governor of that particular state to append the last signature. Now that is not the final stage. Now what happens after now is this: 2 copies of that CFO is produced. One will now be given or issued to the applicant. So the applicant will be told to come and collect or pick up their copies of CFO at this particular time. You understand? Now the second copy of the CFO will now be filed, kind of saved at the file registry archives. So that is where it's going to stay. Peradventure, many years later, maybe something happened to your CFO, or you want to transfer ownership. You still need to come back, you understand, to collect the consent of the governor. You understand? So in that process, you still need your own CFO, either the one you're coming with or the one in the archive. So for whatever reason, the government still has one copy of the CFO while you keep the other one. You understand? There's also cases where a CFO might need to be like it's reprinted. You understand? They call it recertification. So sometimes some governments, state governments, come up with some policies where you have to recertify some CFOs, depending. But CFOs in Nigeria is just one copy. If you transfer ownership on a land that has CFO, you don't change the name that is on that CFO. What you do is to override it with a deed, and of course getting a governor's consent on that particular transaction. So it is the consent of the governor that will override the previous ownership, and the transaction will not be authentic, things like that. So with these few points of mine, I hope I've been able to enlighten you on how to go about your processing your CFO in Nigeria. You understand this point? To process CFO it can be difficult. You understand, especially when you don't understand the processes you need to go through. But having highlighted all this, I am sure it will be easier for you, even when you get to the ministry, when they're telling you to your file is at this particular department, this is what it's doing there. You will begin to appreciate the different stages. Not to glorify our analog system of file management, documents management. It's killing our system. Kudos to a few states who are beginning to appreciate or use technology, land information system, to boost some of these processes. Some states are doing it, and then it is encouraged for every other state in Nigeria to adopt technologies like that. Thank you, guys. Please do well to share this particular video to anybody you think or you feel might have a need for this particular video. I really appreciate. Engage me, inbox me. My number details is actually on the screen. I'll be glad to engage you anytime, any day. Come to my DM. You're welcome. Thank you, guys, and then see you next time.